Okay, so I'm going to present this lecture about the generative AI for animating 3D human face and body behaviors. And as I already said, I'm Stefano Berretti. I'm professor at the University of Florence, working at the Media Integration and Communication Center. So the idea of this talk is to outline some of the works that we did in our laboratory about this topic of generating both animated faces, in particular talking heads, and also the human behavior from text. So I will present you some examples, some recent works that we did on this specific topic. Okay, so the first work that I'm going to present is actually the first one that we did on this specific research area, and it is intended to basically to animate a 3D face based on a speech track. So the input of this system, as you can see here, is a speech, and you have also a 3D model of the face. And what we would like to create, to generate, is an animated sequence of this 3D face with basically animated lips. So the problem here is that of realizing a synchronization, of course, that should appear as much as possible realistic of the movement of the lips according to the input audio track. Of course, this can have many applications in virtual reality, entertainment, and many others. Okay, so our approach basically is based on two ideas. So the first one is that of animating just the landmarks of the face. So the idea is that if we can animate landmarks that are specific points around, for example, the mouth, we can animate in a more precise way the movement of the lips. And the other is that with these landmarks, then we can extend the movement to the overall face, and we do this working not with absolute coordinates of the face, of the points of the face, but just with displacement. So this is the other specific aspect of our work. And as another important aspect of the work is the fact that the animation is independent of the face. So there is no, the system basically does not know nothing about the identity of the person, and so can animate any identity. So the system is basically identity agnostic. So here you can see that the first idea that of using some landmarks of the face, so they are positioned around the mouth, but not only around the mouth, but in several other relevant parts of the face. So working with the landmark has some advantages because landmarks basically are independent from the topology of the face. So we can assume that if we are able to locate them, they are independent from the tessellation, for example, of the 3D shape. And here you can see the other idea is that of working with displacements. So basically these displacements are vectors that represent the difference between the neutral face and the animated one. So you can see that these vectors, these red vectors, have a larger magnitude for the points that move more with respect to the other. So in particular around the eyes, around the lips for the speech. And so at the end, we can animate these points, and from this point, then we can reconstruct the entire face. Here you can see the architecture our system. It is basically composed by two networks. The first one is called this S2L that starting from an input speech generates the movement of the landmarks. And the other network, the so-called S2D, is a decoder that that is capable to pass from the position of the points to a dense mesh. So at the end, as you can see, we can densify, let me say, the landmarks, and then add the neutral phase. At the end, we can have the sequence of animated 3D phases. I'm sorry. Okay, here you can see some details about the way we model the points, but it is something that I have already more or less mentioned, so I can skip probably these details and go instead into these figures that try to explain a bit more the architecture of the network. So basically, we have the speech signal, which is encoded with this WAV2 vector network. So basically, we have an embedding, we have an encoder, we have a feature vector that represents the input speech. Then this is the input for a bidirectional LSTM, and then we have a final layer which is capable to starting from this to animate the displacements of the landmarks. In doing this, we use several loss contributions, several loss terms in our loss function. So we account for the reconstruction error, of course, of the facial landmark. We have also another term that accounts for the reconstructing error in the area of the mouth, and we have also two additional terms that are the cosine loss and the velocity loss. In particular, the cosine loss is something that we introduce in this work and try to measure the angle, the distance, the cosine distance between vectors that represent the displacement between the predictions and the ground truth. And so here we have an ablation study that illustrates the advantage of using this cosine term in the overall loss. And the second part of our architecture is constituted by this decoder that starting from the movement of the landmarks reconstruct basically all the points of the face of the mesh. So for doing this, we use the spiral convolution, which is an effective way to performing a convolution using a spiral pattern basically around a central point, and using the spiral convolution we can pass from the landmarks to the entire face. And at the end you see we can add the neutral model and we can animate the movement. So as an experiment we use this data set, which is one of the benchmark which is used in this context of research. And here you can see some results that we obtained. Actually, when we presented this paper, there were not much work on this topic. Actually, now there are many papers that are coming out. So, of course, this table is quite not updated because it was at the time that we presented our work. But at that time, it was probably one of the best working approaches. And here you can see the errors computed on the landmarks and on the entire face. And on the upper part of the slide, you can see some error maps of the face. And here we can also observe some of the results.
Greece.
When I was in high school, my mom asked me to work pizza for the family on Friday nights. I looked at the phone number in the phone book and talked to Ian and the folks my older brother to place the call. I was too shy to talk to a stranger.
Okay, and then I can also show you some examples in different languages. Actually, we trained sorry. This is a random speech taken from from the network's long track.
But boredom is not just a problem in schools, it's a problem that tracks us beyond schools. There are several troubling addictions that are linked to boredom. When we're bored, we drink too much, we eat too much, we spend too much money, we buy things we don't need.
So the last one is another example of, okay, so I can skip this one. So some considerations about the result that we have seen. So first of all, we trained just on examples that are in English, but you can see that the system is capable to animate quite well also the movement of the lips in other languages. And so we have seen that the movement, I think, is quite natural in the part of the lips. So in particular, you can see that, for example, when the person stops to talk, actually the lips are closed and then they start to move. And so the realism, I think, is okay in the part of the lips, but of course there are some limitations. In particular, the system is not capable to generate emotions. So if you want to have a person that pronounces the same sentence but with different emotions, the system is not capable to do this. And of course, the system is also not capable to work in real time because it takes not much time, but some probably 10-15 seconds to generate an animated sequence. And interestingly, one US company, after reading our paper, was interested in this work, and so the main author of the paper spent there 6 months for his internship. Probably he will go there for working on this topic, because for example, for Hollywood, the film industry is this problem of, for example, localizing the film is very important, so they are actively working in this area. So going ahead, I'm going to show you another work on this topic that was basically a subsequent part of this research that was presented recently in the Winter Conference of Computer Vision, and it has been also presented as demo in other 2 conferences. So here the idea is that of embedding also the emotional part in the 3D talking head generation. And so, as the problem now, I already introduced it, the problem. So here, the additional things that we would like to do is to include an emotional label as an input to the system, so that we can generate, starting from a given speech, different emotional sequences. So the same person can pronounce a given sentence with an emotion of afraid, disgust, anger, and so on. So as a first attempt, we use the 6 basic emotions. So that 6 emotions that have been classified by Ekman in his studies. So here, the idea that we had is the following one. Most of the systems that try to do this basically use the 2D videos, because it is difficult to have 3D sequences with actors, with people that pronounce the same sentence but with different emotions. So to circumvent this problem, in many studies, what researchers have done is to resort to using 2D videos, because there is a large amount of this material. And so, in that case, the problem is that we have to reconstruct from 2D to 3D, and this is not easy problem, because reconstructed from two-dimensional video or image to a 3D point clouds is something that is not easy. So here we followed different ideas, because since we have some data sets that include speech with 3D but without emotions, but we also have some data sets that include instead 3D animations with different emotions, but without speech. So the idea is like to entangle these two sources. So from one side we have the 3D animation of the lips with speech but without emotion, and on the other side we have the emotional part. And so the idea is to take information from these two sources and in some way to entangle them together. So here we have basically these two data sets, the DT, which is the data set for the talking heads, and the DE, which is the data set for the emotional part. And also in this case, we use the same ideas of the previous work, so we worked with the landmarks and with the displacement with respect to the landmarks. And so this is the architecture that we proposed in this work, which is something original and is probably the main contribution of this work, because you see, basically we have two encoders and one decoder. So during the training phase, basically we have two different encoders, one that encodes the talking head part, and the other one that encodes the emotional part. And these two encoder also shares the same decoder. And so you see here that, for example, there is this vector that replicates the emotional part, and here we have the replication of the talking head part. Then during the inference phase, we use the decoder combining together this talking head part and the emotional part. And so this strategy actually resulted effective to combine together the features, the displacement, the movements that come from the talking head part and the emotional part. And so here you can appreciate how basically this strategy is capable to keep the movement that result from the emotional part, which is the first column, and the movement that comes from the talking head part, which is the second column. Here you can see the output basically of the layers of the decoder features. And so we also show that using the combination as we have proposed is capable to provide better results than instead, for example, using the reversed combination of or a zero cut. So actually combining together in the way we have proposed is more effective than the other solutions. And so here we present some results, quantitative and qualitative. So the idea is that we trained with these two datasets, as I just mentioned. So one dataset, which is the VOCA set, that includes talking heads, and the other dataset, which is the Florence 4D, that includes instead a lot of 3D dynamic sequences with emotions. And using these two datasets, and so entangling together the features from both these datasets, actually we generated two new datasets, because at the end the part of this network, of this architecture, is that of generating entangled data. So at the end we can generate 3D data that present both the talking head part and the emotional part. And so we generated these two datasets that we called EMO-VOCA version 1 and EMO-VOCA version 2. The difference is in the number of emotions that we, and of course also of sequences that we included in these two datasets. And so here you can see some in a static way, but some results. So probably it's better after we can see some animated sequence. And here you can see some results that we can obtain training some other methods with these new sequences, with these entangled sequences with both emotions and talking head. And so actually we can see that using these two data sets is capable also to reduce the reconstruction error, the error between the generated sequences and the ground truth. And here we can see some examples.
Doctor sitting by the door.
So, of course, in this case, we have to say that the sentence actually doesn't change. So the emotional in the sentence is not present. So the sentence is pronounced with a neutral emotion. And the sequence is trying to add the emotional part to the generated phase. So, of course, the result is probably not perfect, but we can appreciate some actually emotional part in the happy, angry, and sad. So, as a conclusion for this comment and conclusion for this second work, as I just presented, the idea is that of entangling together these two components, the talking head part and the emotional part. And what we are able to do is to generating animated talking head that combines in 3D the lip movements with the emotional content. Of course, the result is not perfect because, again, we did not take much into account for example, some other aspect of realism, for example, the eyes blinking, the head pose. So we concentrated mostly on the mouth regions, on the lip movement. And we also experimented that, for example, for our system is more difficult to capture, to inject some emotions with respect to others. So, for example, the disgust and sad emotions are more difficult than some other, probably because they are more subtle, are more evident, more pronounced, and so the associated movements are smaller, and so for this reason probably it's more difficult to make that evident in the resulting phase. Okay, so as a third contribution in this line of research, I would like to show you a work which is actually still under revision that we perform as a joint work with this company in US, and the system is called the Polyglot because here the idea is that of having a talking head generation system which is capable to incorporate the capability to generate different languages and also to keep into account the style that each individual has in pronouncing something. We speak, of course, the same sequence, the same sentence, but in different way. Each one has a different style, let me say. So the idea is this work is try to go a step further and inject also these characteristics. And so, as I just, this is the motivation, as I just explained, and so what we did here is, as I told you, first try to use more languages, and the other is that of adding some aspect of individual speaking. And so this is the general architecture that we propose in this work. So the idea is to have like a reference sequence for the style of each person, and again we have an audio track as an input, and what we would like to obtain is that speech animated, so the 3D face should be animated according to the style of the input people. And so for this end, the idea is that of having an encoder that captures from one side the language, from the other side the personal style, because in this case the other aspect that I mentioned is the fact that we can have different languages as an input. And so we have both an encoder for the language and a separated encoder for the audio. And then these three basically components are provided as an input to a diffusion generator, which is based on a transformer, and at the end we are capable to generate these animated faces. Again, here we are in 3D, but then we can of course apply some texture and so generate a textured RGB video. We can render a 2D video of the 3D animated face. Okay, so maybe I can go directly here to present some more, some additional details of this architecture. So you can see here that we start again from the audio track as an input, and we have these three different basically encoder. The first one is based on M. Hubert, and this encoder is that basically for the speech. So in the other examples we use the WAV to WEC, and here we use a different way to embed the speech into a latent representation, which resulted more effective in this work than the WAV to WEC. Then we have a second part for the encoding, where we use the whisper to encode basically the audio into text. So we pass from the audio track to a text transcription basically of that speech, and this textual part is then given as an input to a clip encoder. And so at the end we are able also to extract some features from the text using the power of the clip embedding. So this is the second part, the second encoder, and the third one is the encoder that tries to capture the speaking style. So in that case we have that M1, 2, and T is the sequence that we use as a reference style for a given person. So that sequence is taken as a representation of the specific talking style of a given individual. So we put together all these three encoded vectors as input to the transformer decoder that basically is a diffusion model. So starting from this one, from these three inputs, is capable to generate a sequence that try to keep into account the language and also the specific style of a given person. Okay, so probably here I have some additional details, but more or less the summary of the way this network works is that I just mentioned. And here you can see some results. So in this table, basically what we did is to train our system with 20 languages and then try to generate the output for different languages, so Italian, Spanish, English, and so on. And so what we observed is that in general training with more languages is effective also for generating a specific language. So this is one of the outcome of this work, and also the fact that as we can observe there, our architecture is capable to obtain lower results for different metrics that we use to evaluate the movement of the lips. So an error computed just on the lips, on the overall face, using also dynamic time warping to evaluate the synchronization between the generated sequence and the reference one, and also a measure that accounts for the mouth opening. That mod is basically a measure that accounts for the maximum opening of the mouth. And here we can also appreciate the fact that the test embedding is capable to separate different languages in different parts of this Disney projection. And so we can see that it is reasonable also in the way different languages which are a common, let me say, a common base, they are basically clustered in regions of the space that are close each other. And here we can see some animated faces.
Here we have some comparisons of polyglot with state-of-the-art methods.
On va le refléter ce qu'elle avait. Oui, tu lis une très grande solitude. Ça paraît vrai?
Here we present high-quality renderings generated from expression parameter sequences produced by polyglot. These examples demonstrate polyglot's effectiveness in real-world applications.
بس حالنا انا لو بكره ينزل حسابي اقسم بالله 10 مليار دولار.
And with this personality, I'm also an actor, and as an actor, my job is very easy because whenever I audition, è Sardegna, le cose più lunghe,
A jeżeli to mam za takie pytanie, to oczywiście można od razu się zgodzić.
Para que puede decir hace un frío de kilo que es como mucho en colombiano.
Artık yıl 2024. Yeni yıl deyince aklımıza bizim genellikle...
Here we present high-quality renderings generated from expression parameter sequences produced by polyglot, with fixing the audio and varying the personal style embeddings. These examples demonstrate polyglot's effectiveness in reproducing the intended speaking style.
أصعب أنه في المغرب نادر ما تلاقي فلان كذا ولا كذا ولا كذا. بس
l'altro dolce napoletano tipico è il babà, che è una sorta di pane dolce reso a
คิดตั้งแต่วันที่รับปากกับคำว่าเฮ้ยน้องพร้อมเปลี่ยนตัวไปแล้วมีการถ่าย
كمان طبعا صراحه فتره هي ممكن نجيب جديد جدا كثير وقت البحث.
Okay, so as you can see, these are some outputs of of this work, and yes, so here in particular, the video that we have seen before. Here we have the ground truth, the polyglot, and other methods that have been compared. So of course, also in this case, results of course are not yet optimal, but these two ideas of injecting more languages and the style of the person are two contributions of this work that try to put forward the research in this field. So we will see how this will be received by the reviewer of our work. And so, as a last example of, as a last contribution on Tolkien heads generation, I would like to mention also this work that we prepared in cooperation with the research group at the University of Lille, that we collaborate with this group since several years. And here the problem is still the same of generating 3D animated Tolkien heads, but here we try to solve a different problem, because in basically all the methods that I have just presented, one limitation is the fact that all the 3D data that we use should be in a registered, should be prepared in a registered way. This means that the 3D meshes that we use should have the same number of points, and these points should be connected in the same way, so that the topology of the mesh should be the same. So, of course, this is a limitation, because if we want to use different data and we want to combine this data together from different data set, or we want to animate a 3D scan that we have just captured by a 3D acquisition device, for the other methods, we need the pre-processing step to account for this difference in the topology. So in this work, we try to solve this problem. And so basically, the main contribution in this paper is that of finding a way to working basically with the features that we extract from the 3D mesh, rather than working directly with the points themselves. So here you can see the architecture. So also in this case we have an encoder and a decoder. So the encoder part includes again an encoder for the speech signal. In this case we use the Hubert encoder that captures, of course, the information in the speech track. And on the other side, for the 3D part, again, we have the input 3D neutral face. And from this face, we extract some features using these diffusion net blocks. Actually, this diffusion net blocks comes from this work here. It is actually not a diffusion net in the sense it is not a network. It's a way to model the diffusion of hat on a 3D surface, and with this feature, which is basically obtained working with differential operators on the mesh, we are capable to capture some information that locally accounts for the characteristics of the surface, but without working directly with the topology, with the topology and the number of points of the nectar. So in this way, using these features instead of the input topology and geometry of the shape, we can surpass this limitation of necessitating the same topology for the input. And then once we have encoded this information, then again we have a decoder that, starting from the deformation field, can add again the neutral mesh and animate the sequence. And so here you can see the capability of this descriptor to be in some way robust across different topologies. So here you can see meshes that have a different number of vertices, different connections, but again the descriptors, which is represented here by the color of the mesh, is capable. You see the colors are more or less the same in the same part of the face for different topologies. And here we have some generated sequence, but then I will show you some videos. And here in this experiment, we combine together different, you see, different data set with different topologies, with different number of vertices and faces. And so we show that combining together, we are able to combine together these different topologies, so we can train on multiple data sets with different topologies. And so here you can see the animation
the
that...
smell of old beer vineyards. It takes heat to bring out the odor. A cold dip restores health and zest. A salt pickle tastes fine with ham. Tacos al pastor are my favorite. A zestful food is the hot cross bun.
Who lives on Puerto Rico?
So here, of course, you can notice probably that the accuracy of the movement of the lips is less good than in the first example that I shown you at the beginning of this presentation. But here, of course, the problem is more challenging because these are general models that we have taken from the network, and we try to animate them with our system without any additional preprocessing, so without accounting for the differences in the topology or number of vertices. So here you can see other examples.
Watching this video.
The photograph can become a piece of us.
The stale smell of old beer vineyards. It takes heat to bring out the odor. A cold dip restores health and zest. A salt pickle tastes fine with ham. Tacos al pastor are my favorite.
Buddy, you're a boy, make a big noise, playing in the street, gonna be a big man someday. You got mud on your face, you big disgrace, kicking your can all over the place, singing, we will rock you.
Okay, so with these videos, I concluded this part on generating talking heads, and as a last contribution that I want to mention quickly is this work that we did recently, and this work has been presented orally to the Winter Conference of Computer Vision in February. And in this case, the idea is that is a different problem. We want to generate again something, but in this case we want to generate the human motion starting from a textual description. So we would like to generate a person that performs some complicated, some complex action just from a textual prompt. And so this is the idea. We have this input text and the generative model and the output animation. So here the main contribution that we provide with this work is the fact that we are able to generate a complex movement that have not been seen during the training, and instead we train just with simple movement. So here the idea is that any complicated movement can be divided, can be decomposed into simpler movement. So this is the key idea. And the way we decompose a complex movement into simpler movement is performed using a large language model. So these are two ideas that are new in this work. So let me try to explain, yes, these 2 points a bit more. So if we provide a complex sentence as an input, a complex action, we can use this large language model to decompose it in simpler actions. This is something that a large language model can be do quite well. Of course, we have also a fine-tuning part of the language model where we present some complex movements and their decomposition. So we have a fine-tuning part for the language model. The generation is based on a diffusion model, and another problem that we solved with this work that we faced and solved is that of combining the output of different diffusion models, because of course once we have divided the complex action into simpler one, we can generate the simple animations, but then we have to compose them. And so in this work we also propose a way that takes some inspiration from other works in the image domain to compound together these generated diffusion simple animations. So this is the first step. As I told you, this is the composition. For example, make a step can be decomposed in a set of simple action, simple movement, both temporally but also spatially. So we have a double decomposition. One decomposition is along the temporal component, and the other one is in the spatial one. And then we have to generate for each of these simple action a related animation, and then we have to compose them together. As I just mentioned, to compose together this individual generation, we relied on this recent work that proposed something similar in the domain of images. And so we try to apply the same formulation that basically corresponds to an end between different actions in the domain of 3D animation, joints animation. Because in our work, of course, we are trying to work with 3D. So the animation is the animation of joints of the body in the 3D space. And so this is our model that we call motion composition diffusion, and you can see these different components, the decomposition of the complex action, the generation of individual actions, and then their composition, and then the application that focuses specifically on unknown actions. So our system is designed to work with unknown sequences. So here there is some more details for the different components of the architecture. So you see here the initialization part for the, we use the GPT model. So we have this training part where we present some examples of decomposition, and during inference instead we can provide to the GPT a test description of a complex action, and then the GPT provides us the output, which is the decomposition of the motion, for example, in 3, in that case, simple movements. So a person shot a basketball, we can have the first part where a person bends the knees, then jump, and then throw an object, the ball in this case. As for each subsequence, we have also starting time and an end time. And so here then we have the generation part. So the input is the composition provided by the GPT. And here you can see the generation of the different sub-movement, the movement that have been generated according to the composition of the GPT, and then that idea of combining together this simple movement using the equation that I just introduced. That is also reported here. Then there is some detail that maybe I can just summarize, because one problem that we have here is that we also need like a sequence that is like a base for all the generation. So on this, let me say, neutral movement that lasts for all the duration of the sequence, we can then combine together the other simple movement that derive from the decomposition. Here I can show you some quantitative results that have been obtained on these two data sets that again are common benchmarks that have been used in this area. These two data sets includes both text annotation and motions. And so we have also elementary actions and complex actions. In particular, we consider as complex actions those actions, for example, for sport or for dances, for playing musical instruments. And then there are instead some basic components. So we did this work of dividing the actions into complex one and basic one. And then we have the comparison with some other methods, in particular that STMC method, which is actually the only one which is capable to do something similar. Then we also in this case use the different metrics. And here you can see some results for our method, which is the last line, compared with this STMC, and with a version of our method that is conditioned just using the text without the composition. And so apparently our solution is capable to substantially improve the current result. So here we can also see some static visualization of the results, which is a common way to represent the sequences in a paper without giving a video. So in the upper part you see the test of the complex action, the decomposition, and then the movement, but probably is more effective to see some animation here. So for example, we have this action boxing with the right hand. On the upper part you see the decomposition for our system, and in the lower part the decomposition from this work that we use for comparison. And so in the animation in the lower part you see the ground truth, the result for our method and for this STMC solution, and the result of our method which is test conditioned, so without the decomposition. And so here you have another example. So a quite complicated sentence: a quarterback will throw a football to another team member in hopes to score a touchdown. So this is decomposed into two simpler parts. The person performs a punching motion, and the person is performing a punch with his right hand. So we can see the ground truth, the result for our method, that at least appears more realistic than the other two that we use for comparison. Again, another movement here. A person dances while moving their hips. Again, the decomposition and the results. So let us have a quick look into the results. So our model tried to do the hip movement. Maybe it's not perfect, but the other two models are almost static. And this is I think that the last example, or one of the last one. Here we have a man is dancing, then jumps and does a spin in the air. So also this one is quite complicated because you can see the ground truth. And our model is tries to replicate this movement in a reasonable way. Of course, in this kind of application, you cannot expect that the result is perfectly reproducing the ground truth, but the result is realistic, at least in my opinion. Instead, the other two methods are not much capable to reproduce these movements. And yeah, I think this is the last slide, and we are just on time. So the conclusion for this work is that we are able to generate this movement starting from a complex description of complex action. Of course, also this model is not perfect. There are some ideas, some limitations, some ideas to improve. For example, one point that we could try to improve is the way the GPT module decomposes the input scene, and also another limitation is the way the diffusion model combine together the case that there are sub-movements that are perfectly simultaneous. So in that case, it's more difficult to combine together using this formulation, because the system tries to favor one component with respect to the other. So I think I can, this is the last one, I can stop here. So thank you very much for your attention. I don't know if we have time for, questions, or otherwise we can move to the other speakers because we are a bit late. Oh, sorry.
So thank you very much for the very interesting talk about network. Thank you very much for the very interesting talk and the nice work. I have several questions, but I would like to basically make two, one for the first part of your talk and one for the last one. So in the first part of your talk, you said that basically working with displacements of the landmarks makes it identity agnostic. So is this really true? I mean, my intuition is that there are several identity elements in the displacements too. So to what extent really the synthesis is agnostic if we work with displacements?
Yeah, I can agree that probably it is true, but at least it's better than working with absolute coordinates. So yeah, probably it's not the optimal solution. Still, there are some components of the identity, but it's the better way that we found with respect to working with the absolute position. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then for the last part, you mentioned this combinationality of actions, but these have a deeper hierarchical structure, so they can get a high-level task and then decompose it into some actions, but these actions might also break down to even single actions. So does the overall framework allow for this type of hierarchy of actions, or it is, a single, let's say, decomposition?
Yeah, for the moment, the work does not have this hierarchical structure, in the sense that in those data sets there are some basic actions. For example, I don't know, make working and or put moving the right hand. And so these are the basic actions that we use, those that we have in the data set. If if this data set would have included simple action, probably we could extend also in that direction to have a hierarchy. But in this case, the simple action, the basic action are these, those basic action that we identify in the data set, so walking, moving a hand, and then at the upper level of the hierarchy, there are these more complex sports movement, dance movement that basically combine together these simpler actions. But we are not at the level of modeling for example, the single step or the fine, very fine movement of the body. So the basic movement are still simple action. Okay, so, but probably that could be extended also in this way, but we didn't try it. Yeah, you are welcome. Sorry.
There was an interesting thing in the first part, talked about the spiral evolution. I was wondering what was the intuition for using that kind of method, facial analysis, as Generative could give us some insight how it works and why is it good for facial expression.
Yeah, actually, you know, it is complicated to define a convolution on a domain which is not Euclidean, is not flat, so there are different propositions. These spiral convolutions, of course, has the intuition that we can order the points around a central vertex, accounting for the first neighborhood, the circle of points which is near to the central one. So we can order these points according to a spiral. And so in this way we can go also to different distances around this central point. So the idea is that we can order the points that it is what we need for making convolution, basically. So we need to sort points. There is nothing, I think, special related to phase. So this is a general way that we can use on a mesh to perform convolution. So the only constraint that we have in that case is that the topology again should be the same for all the models, because basically performing this spiral convolution has some predefined matrices for doing this operation during encoding and decoding. So for this reason, the topology should be fixed, which is what we try to extend in the other world where we was agnostic to the topology.